Carly Levin with the Legal Tech Fund. Welcome to today's episode of Legal Tech Briefs. I am really excited because we are talking about HR at law firms and how it's innovating and changing. Today I have Heidi Shepard, Chief People Officer from Goodwin, and Karen Febeo, Chief Legal Talent Officer at Goulston and Storrs. I was curious about the insertion of the word legal there, if there's a differentiation, but I liked it. Thank you both for being on. When I was at JP Morgan, I did hundreds and hundreds of interviews for our associates and analysts in the investment bank. And this topic has just been so top of mind because the way that we used to interview for associates at banks and law firms, it's got to change in today's environment. And I am excited to hear how that's changing. And then training. There's so much talk right now in the legal tech world of how AI could be the biggest impact to training of associates and getting law firm associates up to speed faster than ever. But really interested to hear how that's actually happening in action. So if it works, would you mind both giving a brief background and how you got to your current roles? Heidi, do you want to start?
Sure. So I joined Goodwin in 1999, which is fairly unbelievable to me, as an associate in what was then our labor and employment department. And I practiced here as an associate, as a counsel, and then as a partner in labor and employment. And I loved it. I really enjoyed the work I did. I did a lot of litigation. I did sort of all three legs of the stool of being an employment lawyer. So I did litigation counseling and some deal work, although probably less of the latter. And I was sort of at the point in my career where I was just trying to think, like, what's next? What do I want to do next? At the time, I was doing a lot of the firm's employment work. I was sort of working as in-house employment counsel with one of our partners. And I was starting to think what it would be like to go in-house. I think the thing that was the most attractive to me about that was, especially as I was doing a lot of litigation, clients would come to me with issues and I'd be like, why didn't you, if you had a policy that, then, I sort of was feeling like I was just being dealt a hand of cards as opposed to having the ability to help select the cards. So I was thinking about going in-house and what that would be like. When our then chief HR officer left, and they came to me and said, "Hey, would you like that job?" And my initial reaction was absolutely not. And when the more I thought about it, the more I thought, of course I want that job. Like, how amazing is that? This gives me the opportunity to, basically do those things, right? Help deal the cards out and select the cards and make sure that we have the policies in place and we have the structures in place and that we're doing the right things by our people and changing up policies that, I didn't love when I was an associate and trying to make the firm a better place for everyone to work. And so I moved into this role in 2011 and have been doing sort of various iterations of this job with different titles sort of over time. Most recently, Chief People Officer, but effectively in this role, I oversee sort of the full life cycle for all of our people, partners, associates, and what we call GO team members or global operation team members. And I love it.
That makes so much sense. I hadn't heard that background before, but I like that evolution from your practice into actually doing the work.
Yeah, it's been great and it's fun. And I still do the firm's employment law work or a lot of it. And so that also keeps me very fulfilled because I still feel like I'm using my skills as a lawyer.
Oh, that's great. Karen, how has your role progressed?
So similar to Heidi, I practiced law, but at the beginning of my career, I was a commercial and IP litigator for almost 9 years. And when unfortunately the firm I was at dissolved, I then entered the business operations side of things and was lucky enough to join Goodwin. It was my first foray into professional development. There were 100 lawyers from my firm who went over to Goodwin, and I was honored to be able to join them. And I transitioned for the first time into the business operations side of things. things. I ended up working at Goodwin for 12 and a half years, working very closely and learning a ton from Heidi. So very grateful for that. Before I joined Goulston. And so I joined Goulston. It's a more mid-sized platform, and it really has allowed me to broaden my role and oversee all of talent, including recruiting, in addition to training, development, mentoring, coaching, DEI. I've been at Goulston for 8.5 years. And, one of the things that I really enjoyed about practicing was counseling my clients. And when my firm dissolved, as Heidi said, when she was at her career, kind of taking that look at what do I really want to do going forward? It was really the connections with people and helping people grow and develop and counseling them and helping them solve problems. And it's really been a delight to be able to do that from this side.
Great. I like that you have a long-standing friendship here. So a question for both of you. One thing that has been top of mind for us is, what are the new questions you're asking to candidates? As you think about the AI tools, software tools, data tools that you're using in-house, what's something new that 5 years ago you wouldn't have been asking?
I'll start. So, we actually haven't changed our interview questions or our approach to hiring. We view interviewing and hiring as an opportunity to connect with the candidate personally, to learn about their skills, their background, and their interests. We absolutely understand that technology is extremely powerful. But from our perspective, it doesn't replace that personal connection that's really so core to who we are, and the professional judgment that's critical to ensuring that we're hiring the best talent, especially given that we have a very long-term view. We hire attorneys who we plan to grow and develop into partners here. And so, while it may seem odd to say, we actually haven't changed our questioning or our approach. We're aware of it, and we're thinking about how it can be additive.
Yeah, I sort of echo that. I think we haven't dramatically changed our approach. We are definitely making clear to people that we expect them to be, very tech savvy and very cognizant of the fact that technology will be a part of their job. I think, historically people would say like, oh, I'm a lawyer, like I'm not really focused on the technology piece of it. There's no question that that is something. I think the other thing that we are really focused on right now is on industry alignment and industry focus. So we are in the process of launching our next 10-year strategy, and very, very focused on industry immersion, and really sort of making sure that our attorneys are very conversant and incredibly knowledgeable about the industries that they serve. And so one of the things that we're really looking at is people who are coming to us with that industry background already. Maybe they worked between college and law school in one of the industries that we are focused on, and we view that as a real plus.
Yeah. I remember during the financial crisis, a lot of the law firms set up internships with clients for their law firm associates to give them another 6 months or a year before they started at the law firm. And I had friends who worked in-house at construction companies and then went to the law firm and had a different perspective.
Yeah, we actually have been running a program for the past couple of years called the Client Immersion Program, where we have sent a number of our first-year associates to clients, and for exactly that, a 9-month secondment experience where that has been their foray into the beginning of practice of law. It's been wildly successful. We've been really excited about the skills that they have learned at clients, and also sort of just that ability to develop those client relationships.
Yeah.
It's been really impactful for us, and has been a great experience for the people who participated in it as well.
Yeah. And probably real friendships get developed.
Yeah, and the clients love it. So it's been a win-win situation.
And then, Karen, I was thinking when you were speaking that technology is definitely coming, but you also still need to develop that long-term future pipeline of your future leaders of the firm. So it makes sense that you're continuing to look for those skill sets. We just talked about clients a little bit with the industry alignment. What are you hearing from clients today on technology, data? What are they asking you? Heidi, do you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. I think clients are definitely asking us, what do we have? How do we work? How are we working? How are we going to be as efficient as we possibly can? We have a managing director of client value, who is really focused as we are, launching um, launching new opportunities with clients to make sure that we are using technology as effectively as we possibly can to support whatever matters that they have, that we're thinking about that very carefully in how we're pricing our matters, right? So clients really want at this point to be bringing us the most sophisticated work, not work that that can get answered through AI, and really very focused on that. And we are actively working to partner with them on, being very proactive in our use of AI and how we're using it and how we're thinking about it, and training people up on that as well.
Makes sense.
Very similar to Heidi. We have clients actually on all ends of the spectrum. We have clients whose outside counsel guidelines require us to use AI. We have others who prohibit it. And we have some who just want transparency and kind of how and when we're using it to do our work for them. So we're ensuring that we know exactly where our clients stand about AI usage, and we're really mindful about using it responsibly and in accordance with each client's expectations. When we do use AI, we make sure that lawyers inform their team members, and if the work product is something that the clients are going to be relying on, that or influencing one of their decisions, we make sure that we're really clear with them that AI was a part of that work product and that we review it for completeness and accuracy, et cetera. So one of the things, like some clients would like to use AI for greater efficiency, obviously, and they may say, we don't want you to review it because we want to take advantage of that time and cost savings. In those circumstances, we need to be really clear with them in writing, what the inherent risks are in doing that, despite the benefits of cost and time savings. And they need to respond in writing that they are fully aware and want us to continue in that way, despite the risks. So we have a really deliberate process to ensure where we're using AI and not implementing that really careful review and scrutiny, that there is written, agreement on all sides about what the problems that could arise from that.
Is that part of the onboarding conversation now? Are clients coming to you, or are you going to clients asking them their AI opinions?
It's a combination. Like I said, it's in a lot of our outside counsel guidelines that we have. So we have to make sure that everyone's aware of those. We have some clients who will call us and say, we want you to use AI for this project, or can we brainstorm how we can use AI for that? So we're excited to kind of delve into those conversations. We're in kind of a learning phase right now. We are like listening and learning, and we're being really intentional because the power of AI is unimaginable in many ways, and things are moving exponentially. But we want to make sure that we're really intentional about how we're thinking about using it to make sure it's in accordance with our ethical obligations to our clients, and that the work is accurate and complete. But as Heidi said, the judgment and the expertise of our lawyers remains the most critical thing, and that's what our clients are hiring us for.
That goes to my next question. How are you training your internal lawyers on using these products? How are you getting them comfortable, getting them up to speed? I had an innovation role in the investment bank at JP Morgan, and oh gosh, communication was the hardest thing. To get someone to try a new tool was, you had to Slack them, you had to go stand in front of their desk, you had to do a town hall and a meeting to get anyone to try something one time and realize that they liked it. But how what has worked, what has not worked internally?
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point, Carly. I think what has not worked is just, hey, here's a tool. You can use it if you want, right? And so we have partnered with Legora, and for sort of our legal tool, and we've also partnered with Enterprise Chat GPT. And so those are tools that are available to people, in addition to Microsoft Copilot, which we rolled out probably about 2 years ago now. And we've been trying to very deliberately train people up, and we are especially doing that now. So I think probably for the past basically since we started our fiscal year in October. So since October, we've been very deliberate about rolling out very intentional training programs, which we're really expecting all of our lawyers to participate in. We've also moved the AI training function out from IT and into our learning and professional development function, to sort of, try to establish this actually is more than just a piece of technology, right? This is a huge part of how you're going to learn and develop and grow. So that's some of the things that we're doing, and really looking for opportunities to train people up so that they can be successful, while using it for all the positives that it brings, but also, to Karen's point, being careful about the dangers of using AI, and solely using AI in particular, right? So really making sure that this is being vetted and reviewed, and making sure that human beings are still adding the real value that they need to.
Yeah.
So from a training perspective on our end, that long-term mindset applies to training as well, and how we develop our attorneys. I think, we are looking to rebuild and strengthen that apprenticeship model that really took a hit during COVID with remote work and hybrid. And, we think that learning by doing alongside our more senior lawyers is core to how we develop excellent talent. And obviously we need to figure out how technology figures into that. And so, one conversation we're having now is, how do we effectively train our associates when some of the routine tasks that they normally did are, can be done in seconds when it would have taken them hours. And, from our perspective, the associates still need to learn how to do that work, because they need to check it for accuracy and quality and completeness. And you can't quality check work unless you actually know how to do it yourself. And so we are really clear that our senior attorneys have to be that much more intentional and deliberate about training our junior attorneys, so that they can develop those appropriate skills. From a training perspective, AI has been incredibly helpful in, being a supplement to that learning, by helping us like come up with scenarios and come up with interactive elements to incorporate into our training. It's not, sitting in front of a lecture and learning, but it's coming up with, AI can help come up with practical ways to train somebody on the actual work before they have to do it for the client. And so we're leveraging that for sure. And, it remains to be seen how it will evolve into the future, but we're being really intentional and deliberate about it as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Karen more on that point. I think this concept of this being an apprentice-based industry is one that we really need to make sure that we're preserving. And that really is placing a lot of pressure on our partners to make sure that they are providing people the experiences that they need to get in order to develop and grow. Because you're right. I mean, when I was growing up, and I think when Karen was growing up, I used to sit in a room this size surrounded by boxes, right? And my job was to just go through documents, page by page by page. AI can now do that work, and can do that work in a matter of minutes, something that would have taken me weeks. And, but I learned an amazing amount of things in that, right? I learned about the case I was working on. I learned about the facts. I learned, figured out by reading documents who the players were and how they interacted with one another. I learned about which documents were going to be really critical in the case. And we need to make sure that we are thinking about how we can still teach people that, and provide those experiences, even when, we're not going to charge our clients, for 3 weeks of an associate's time to go through documents.
Yeah, that's something we've been thinking about a lot, is how do you use AI to get more reps, to get early associates to see more faster and earlier in their career, and set them up for success to actually have that experience. I do like the idea of a throwback day, though, where you have them all sit in a room full of documents and bring briefcases.
I remember those days well. We get boxes of donuts and coffee, and we'd all be in a room. lots of paper cuts back in those days.
Fake stamping, all the good times.
When I was preparing for this conversation, I went on YouTube and I found some amazing videos from 2015. And it is a good reminder of how quickly things can change, or how much can change in a decade, because you look back at 2015 and it just feels so dated. What do you think we'll be talking about when it comes to hiring a year from now? What do you think will have changed, or 10 years from now?
A year from now, I have to say, I don't actually see AI changing all that much how we hire because of the qualities and the characteristics that are so important to us. And, our practice of hiring for the long term and the focus on the personal connection, that's just so critical to that, and identifying those important qualities and characteristics. 10 years from now, ugh, that's a good one. I have no idea. I think one of the things when AI kind of came out was, think about when the internet first came out and how quickly things moved. Well, AI is like that on steroids. It's everything is happening exponentially faster. So it's really difficult to know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I mean, as I sit here today thinking a year from now, that's what I envision. But again, everything is moving so quickly. We just want to make sure that we are observing and that we are being really thoughtful about what's working, what's not, learning from, experimenting with these tools and figuring out the most responsible and effective ways to use them.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, a big part of this, I really don't think that things are going to change that much in a year. I think we are going to be even more careful and more intentional about each hire and the relationships that we're making sure that we can establish, that people are really going to work well here, and that this is a place where they can really thrive. I think that's going to be a real area of focus. I mean, we've actually recently put out a policy telling people that we do not want them using AI in the recruiting process, right? I've had a couple of interviews, candidly, over the past couple of months where it's just very obvious to me that the candidate, if it's been a Zoom interview where the candidate has been, reading AI developed answers during the course of the interview, and like, that's not what we're looking for. Like, kudos to you that you're figuring out how to use the technology. I want to meet you face to face. I want you to come into our office. I want you to make sure that this is a place where you can thrive, because those, what people can do is going to become more and more important in the future.
Yeah.
I agree.
What's the best advice that you give to law students today or young associates?
I think it's to make sure they know how to do the work and to think about technology and ways that it can help and support the practice, and to also talk to the more senior lawyers about their ideas about how the technology can be helpful. Because, this is one of the things where the people who are coming up through the ranks now, they had exposure to AI in college and law school, and they may have knowledge and awareness of things that AI can accomplish that, our more senior lawyers haven't yet been exposed to. So there's almost like it's a brainstorming, but maybe a little bit of reverse mentoring there, where they can bring that knowledge into the fold. But we are telling them that in-person connections, relationship, building excellent judgment, and quality checking, those are the things we're really focusing on. Judgment has always been something that's been really important to our process, but it becomes just even that much more critical because we want people who know when and how to use AI. So we're telling, people that they need to use it responsibly. We have an enterprise chat GPT account to make sure that everyone has access to it, and everyone who gets access has to go through an orientation and training about responsible use and understanding client requirements. Our general counsel's office is a big part of that. But we want to make sure that people have an opportunity to iterate and experiment in a very thoughtful and controlled way, so that when they are using it for their legal work, they're doing it responsibly and exercising good judgment. So those are the kinds of things that we're sharing.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. I mean, I will say that, it used to be that you kind of expected law schools to teach people how to think like a lawyer, and that was the 3 years that, that's really what the purpose of those 3 years were. And I would say, 10, 15 years ago, when somebody would ask me, like, what classes should I take in law school? Honestly, I'd be like, take what you like and what you're interested in, because at the end of the day, it's really not going to matter to us that much. Because once you get here, we're going to teach you the practical skills. We're going to make sure that you are learning the skills that you need, on the job, and that you're getting trained up in the discipline that you wind up working in. I think that's becoming less and less the case, right? I think people now do need in this environment. I think you do need to come out of law school much more purpose driven about what it is that you really want to do, and spend those 3 years really preparing for the line of work that you're interested in. And I also think that what law schools are doing, I think we're going to see that change in the near term, right? And sort of like, I think that it is really probably no longer can be just this place where you are engaging in really great academics for a 3-year period, but that law schools are going to need to start turning people out with a much more practical skill set that they're going to be able to use from day one on the job.
Yeah, what struck me about this conversation today is I always come to things from the legal tech perspective, and what's really important is maintaining what's always been wonderful about law firms, which is the apprenticeship model, judgment, human connections, long-term relationships. So it's almost more, how do we preserve those great features and train those great features in a world that's changing, where and at the same time teach additional tools and new skills.
Exactly. Exactly. There's this great quote that HBR has been writing about this. Obviously, there was this great quote I was reading the other day that I feel like it's so relevant. It's like, the greatest irony of all is that to make AI work at work, we need to get better at being human. And it kind of sums up exactly what you just said, and it's so true.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, thank you both. Thank you both for being here. This was really, really a great conversation, and so interesting to hear what you both are up to.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Carly. Really appreciate the opportunity. And thanks, Karen.
Absolutely. Great to see you, Heidi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.